They came from the stars with weapons that could melt cities, but they never ran simulations for Earth's pets. The first ships appeared on a Tuesday. No warning, no global announcement, just a deep, metallic groan rolling across the sky, as if the atmosphere itself were tearing open. People looked up from traffic jams, coffee lines, schoolyards, and froze. 6 black structures hovered above the clouds, vast and angular, blocking out the sun. They didn't shine like friendly sci-fi fantasies. They absorbed light, swallowing the blue of the sky until everything beneath them looked dimmer, smaller, weaker. Within minutes, satellites went dark, power grids flickered, phones buzzed once with emergency alerts, then fell silent. The invasion had begun. The aliens, later identified as the Korth, moved with ruthless efficiency. Dropships punched through the clouds and slammed into cities across the globe. Energy weapons vaporized tanks. Sonic pulses shattered concrete and bone alike. Humanity's defenses, proud and expensive, collapsed in hours. By nightfall, Earth was lost. Or so the Korth believed. Inside their command vessels, the Korth high strategists reviewed data streams with cold satisfaction. Humans were fragile, predictable. Their armies relied on centralized command, emotional decision-making, and outdated kinetic weapons. Resistance was already dropping below acceptable threat levels. That was when the anomalies began. At first, they were dismissed as sensor errors. A patrol unit in Berlin went silent after entering a residential district. No explosion, no distress call, just gone. In Snow Polo, a Korth scout drone detected rapid movement in alleyways, more fast, impossible acceleration before its feed cut to static. In rural Montana, a landing squad reported being surrounded by low-mass biological units exhibiting coordinated behavior. The report was flagged as absurd. Low-mass units. One strategist scoffed. Rodents. But the data didn't lie. Thermal scans showed dozens of warm shapes moving together. Audio sensors recorded snarls, hisses, shriek sounds classified as non-hostile fauna. The Korth ignored them. That was their second mistake. In a small suburban house outside London, a golden retriever named Max stood perfectly still in the backyard. His ears twitched as a low-frequency hum vibrated through the ground. His owner, Sarah, was inside packing supplies with shaking hands. Unaware that Max's pupils had narrowed, his muscles coiled tight. Something ancient stirred in him. Across the world, cats lifted their heads in unison. Street dogs stopped barking and stared skyward. Birds abandoned flight paths they had followed for generations. In laboratories, military kennels, and forgotten research facilities, genetically enhanced animals projects long buried under classified files felt dormant implants awaken. Signals passed through frequencies humans couldn't hear. Not language, not commands, instinct. The Korth believed Earth's animals were irrelevant, non-sentient, background noise on a conquered planet. They did not understand one crucial truth. Earth had never been ruled by humans alone, and its other inhabitants had survived extinctions, ice ages, predators, far worse than invaders from the stars. As the first Korth ground units advanced into what they believed was a secured zone, something moved in the darkness ahead of them, low to the ground, fast, hungry. The invasion plan did not account for teeth. The Korth learned fear for the first time in a city park. Their infantry unit store, jointed beings wrapped in adaptive armor advanced between trees that had stopped swaying despite the wind. The silence unsettled them. Earth's cities were supposed to be loud, chaotic. Instead, the night pressed close, thick, and watchful. Then the ground moved. From beneath benches, bushes, and drainage tunnels, shapes exploded outward. Dogs, dozens of them, large and small. Street mutts, shepherds, pit bulls, huskies. No hesitation, no confusion. They moved like a single organism, flanking with terrifying precision. Korth targeting systems locked on immediately. Too slow. The first dog leapt not at the chest, where armor was thickest, but at the exposed joint behind the knee. Teeth crushed synthetic muscle. Another went for the throat cables. A third slammed into the helmet with bone-rattling force. The Korth fired wildly. Energy bolts scorched tree trunks and vaporized patches of grass. But the dogs were already gone circling, darting, attacking again. They didn't fight like soldiers, they fought like predators. Within 30 seconds, the unit was down. Korth Command flagged the incident as an anomaly, a rare failure, but the reports multiplied. Moscow, Tokyo, and Cairo. Packs of dogs attacking patrols, overwhelming them through numbers, speed, and brutal efficiency. What the Korth could not see was why. Dogs were not just attacking, they were coordinating. In the ruins of a military research base in Nevada, sealed doors finally opened after decades. Inside, enhanced canines projects, once designed for reconnaissance, search and rescue. Even limited tactical operations stepped into the moonlight. Neural augmentations flared to life, syncing with signals pulsing across the planet. These dogs didn't just sense danger, they understood it. In urban shadows, cats joined the war in their own way. Korth commanders noticed power failures spreading through occupied zones. Communication relays went offline. Data hubs malfunctioned without visible damage. Drones returned blind, their optics shredded by razor claws that struck faster than mechanical shutters could close. Cats didn't attack head-on, they climbed, they waited, they disabled. A single cat could slip through a vent too small for a drone, curl silently beside a power core, and sever critical wiring with surgical precision. Others hunted alone, slipping through enemy lines and never being detected at all. To the Korth it felt like the planet itself was sabotaging them. In a suburban neighborhood outside London, Max ran. He wasn't alone. Dozens of dogs from nearby homes and streets followed him, not because he was the biggest, but because something in him led. His enhanced ancestors, bred generations ago for intelligence and loyalty, whispered instincts into his blood. Ahead, a Korth scout squad emerged onto the street. Max did not bark, he charged. The pack split instinctively. 2 went left, 3 right, others straight down the center. One dog leaped, sacrificing itself to draw fire. Another dragged a fallen Korth to the ground and didn't let go. When it was over, smoke rose from alien armor cooling on the asphalt. Inside a hovering command ship, a Korth strategist stared at the battle footage in silence. "These are not weapons," it said slowly. "These are allies." For the first time since the invasion began, the Korth revised their models. Earth's animals were no longer classified as background fauna, they were reclassified as active hostile forces, and that was when the birds went dark. The Korth had conquered airspace in under an hour. Their anti-gravity carriers hovered beyond missile range. Drones stitched the clouds with surveillance grids. Human aircraft that dared to rise were erased in silent flashes of blue light. The sky belonged to the invaders. Then the birds fell from it, not dead, descending. At first, Korth's sensors registered nothing unusual: small biological masses, erratic flight paths, negligible threat potential. Tens of thousands of signals appeared at once, then hundreds of thousands, then millions. The system lagged, and in that lag, chaos bloomed. Flocks of starlings twisted into living spirals, their movements mathematically precise. They didn't scatter when fired upon. They split, flowing around energy bolts like liquid thought. Pigeons swarmed sensor lenses, pecking optics into blindness. Ravens struck antennae with beaks hardened by evolution and, in some cases, reinforced by something else entirely. Genetically enhanced avian units, once part of abandoned military experiments, activated mid. Their eyes glowed faintly, processing data at speeds that rivaled primitive AI. They carried no weapons. They were the weapons. Korth drones began falling from the sky, wings shredded, stabilizers torn away by hundreds of tiny impacts. Birds sacrificed themselves without hesitation, colliding with thrusters, clogging exhaust ports, jamming rotors with feathers and bone. One carrier lost lift over the Pacific, then another over Europe. Human survivors watched in disbelief as alien machines invincible just hours ago listed and crashed in pillars of fire. The Korth responded with fury. Atmospheric cleansing protocols activated. Sonic dispersal waves rippled outward, tuned to disorient biological life. The effect was devastating for humans. But the animals adapted. Dogs flattened their ears and advanced anyway. Cats anchored themselves with claws. Birds adjusted wing beats, shifting frequencies until the pain dulled to background noise. The Korth had underestimated one thing no strategist should ever ignore: evolution. These creatures had been shaped by millions of years of survival. Their nervous systems were not fragile. Their instincts were not programmable weaknesses, and they learned fast. In the oceans, the invasion took a darker turn. Korth naval platforms descended into the depths, seeking to secure undersea resource nodes. What they found instead were shadows moving too large, too coordinated, too intelligent. Dolphins swam in patterns that scrambled sonar. Orcas rammed hulls with terrifying force, targeting propulsion units with unerring accuracy. Enhanced sharks stagged decades ago and forgotten returned to ancient patrol routes, guided by signals pulsing through the water itself. One platform vanished entirely. No debris, just silence. Inside Korth High Command, panic crept into voices that had never known it. "They are everywhere," one strategist hissed. "Land, air, sea. They do not retreat," another added. "They do not require orders." On a rooftop in New York, a lone cat sat calmly as a burning carrier fell past the skyline. Its tail flicked once, eyes reflecting the fire like stars. Below, Dogs guarded humans without being told. They stood between survivors and alien patrols, growling low, unyielding. For the first time, humans were no longer fighting alone. The Korth issued a new directive: eliminate the animals first. What they did not understand was that the animals had already chosen their own target, and it wasn't the soldiers. It was the mind behind the invasion. The Korth believed intelligence required language. That belief had built their empire. Their neural networks were optimized to detect speech patterns, command hierarchies, digital signals. They searched for generals, leaders, control centers, anything that thought the way they did. So when the attacks began targeting command infrastructure with impossible precision, the Korth were confused, very confused. In a ruined city in Japan, a Korth data tower collapsed without a single explosion. No weapon fire, no sabotage team, just a sequence of failures cascading in perfect order: power loss, signal disruption, structural overload. The cause: rats, not ordinary rats, descendants of lab subjects once enhanced for maze-solving, memory retention, and swarm coordination. They poured through maintenance tunnels too small for Korth drones, chewing through fiber lines, shorting circuits, collapsing cooling systems. They didn't panic when others died. They adapted. In Paris, bats swarmed inside a hovering command node, navigating by echolocation, immune to jamming. Their wings disrupted gravitic fields just enough to destabilize the craft. It drifted, tilted, then slammed into the Seine in a splash of fire and steam. Spiders spun silk across optical arrays, their threads nearly invisible yet strong enough to interfere with laser targeting. Ant colonies invaded exposed circuitry, their bodies bridging connections, triggering overloads. To the Korth, it felt like fighting a planet that thought. In truth, it was fighting a distributed intelligence, millions of small minds connected by instinct, pheromones, magnetism, vibration, and something far stranger, a signal the Korth could not decode. Deep beneath the Alps, in a bunker abandoned after the Cold War, a door slid open for the first time in 40 years. Inside, Project Aegis Fauna reactivated. Monitors flickered to life, displaying neural activity across the globe. Animal brains lighting up in patterns eerily similar to a planetary network. Not controlled, not commanded, aligned. The scientists who had once built the system had theorized it could only happen under extreme planetary threat. They had been right. Dogs became guardians and shock troops. Cats, infiltrators and assassins. Birds, eyes in the sky. Sea life, the silent executioners. Even insects played their role, clogging weapons, jamming vents, overwhelming systems with sheer biological mass. The Korth attempted retaliation, orbital strikes, targeted forests, oceans, entire ecosystems. The destruction was immense, but every blast hardened the survivors. Every loss sharpened the response. In a Korth flagship above Earth, the supreme strategist finally voiced what none of them wanted to admit. This planet is defended by a consciousness we cannot isolate. That was when the first counter-invasion began. Not with ships, with silence. Across Korth command channels, strange interference appeared, patterns repeating like heartbeats. Signals echoed back, distorted, altered, learning. Cats slept beside consoles, their bodies absorbing vibrations. Dogs lay beneath antenna arrays, their enhanced neural implants interpreting frequencies no machine could translate. Earth was listening, and Earth was answering. In a shattered city square, Max stood atop a fallen Korth walker. Around him, humans emerged cautiously from hiding. A child reached out and touched his fur. Max did not move. His eyes were fixed on the sky, because somewhere beyond the clouds, something in the enemy's mind had just realized the truth. Earth's pets were not defending humans. They were defending home. The Korth had one final advantage. They were not a single species, but a hive of intellects, bound by a central cognitive core known as the overmind. It did not merely command, it synchronized. Every ship, every unit, every decision flowed through it like blood through a heart. Destroy the heart and the body would collapse. But the overmind did not exist in a place humans could reach. It existed between places, part quantum construct, part biological entity, distributed across the fleet yet anchored in a massive command vessel hidden beyond the moon's shadow. The animals felt it before any human instrument did. Whales sang in patterns that made satellites tremble. Dogs whimpered in their sleep, dreaming of stars. Cats stared at empty corners of rooms, pupils wide, tracking something far away. The signal was changing. Project Aegis Fauna detected it immediately. The network is converging, one surviving scientist whispered. They're not just reacting anymore, they're aiming. The plan that formed was not spoken. It didn't need to be. Across Earth, enhanced animals moved towards specific locations: old observatories, radio telescopes, deep-sea communication hubs. Cats curled around superconducting coils, their bodies stabilizing fluctuating fields. Dogs howled in harmonics that aligned distant transmitters. Birds perched along cables like living amplifiers. Together they formed a planetary antenna. The Korth sensed the threat too late. The Overmind attempted to isolate itself, cutting feedback loops, purging corrupted channels. But the signal did not behave like code. It behaved like instinct. A pulse surged from Earth, not a weapon, but a mirror. It reflected the Overmind's own synchronization patterns back at itself, amplified by billions of biological processes acting in imperfect but resilient harmony. The Overmind staggered. For the first time, it experienced contradiction. Conflicting impulses rippled through the hive. Ships hesitated, weapons failed to fire, units froze, unable to reconcile simultaneous commands. In orbit, carriers drifted aimlessly. On the ground, Korth soldiers dropped their weapons, clutching their heads as the unity that defined them fractured. The animals pressed the advantage. Dogs charged immobilized units, disabling without mercy. Cats severed the last functional relays. Birds filled the sky again, not in chaos, but in formation. The Overmind screamed across every frequency it possessed. And then silence. The Korth fleet did not explode. It simply stopped. Lights dimmed. Engines powered down. Ships became empty, husks hanging in space. Humanity watched as the invaders fell from the sky, not in fire, but like dead leaves. The war was over, or so it seemed. On Earth, animals slowly disengaged. Packs broke apart. Flocks scattered. Insects returned to their hidden empires. The planetary network dimmed, not gone, just sleeping. Max limped back to his neighborhood, wounds healing faster than they should. Sarah found him at dawn, covered in dust and ash. She hugged him and cried. He licked her face once, then lay down, exhausted. High above, beyond the moon, a fragment of the Overmind drifted, damaged, silent, but not destroyed. And somewhere deep within it, a new directive formed. Not conquest, not annihilation, avoid Earth at all costs. Because Earth was no longer just a planet. It was defended by its pets. The world did not celebrate right away. When the last Korth ships fell silent, humanity emerged slowly from bunkers, basements, and shattered cities. People looked to the sky, expecting another wave, another lie, another ending. None came. The invaders' machines rusted where they fell, their weapons powered down, inert and harmless. Governments declared victory, but their voices trembled because deep down, they knew the truth. They hadn't won the war. They had survived it. Scientists studied the wreckage and found something unsettling. The Korth systems weren't destroyed by force. They were overwhelmed. Their command architecture had been mirrored, destabilized by something organic, decentralized, and impossible to isolate. Something alive. Project Aegis fauna was declassified within weeks. Footage leaked online, dogs coordinating battlefield maneuvers, cats navigating alien corridors, birds disabling drones. Mid-flight ocean recordings revealed whales and orcas striking in perfect timing. Data visualizations showed a brief but undeniable moment when animal neural activity across the planet aligned. A planetary response. The revelation shattered humanity's self-image. For centuries, humans had believed themselves masters of Earth, apex predators, stewards of nature. The invasion proved otherwise. Earth had always been defended. Memorials rose not just for fallen humans, but for animals. Stone statues of dogs standing guard. Murals of cats perched atop alien wreckage. Songs written in honor of birds that darkened the sky one final time. In London, Sarah placed a small metal tag on Max's collar. It bore no rank, no serial number. Just one word: protector. Max didn't understand ceremonies or speeches. He only knew the world was quieter now, safer. He slept more, dreamed less of stars. Across the globe, something changed. People stopped seeing pets as property. They walked dogs with respect, not ownership. They let cats roam without scorn. They protected forests, oceans, and skies not out of guilt, but gratitude. Because everyone knew now what happened when Earth was threatened. The animals would answer. Years later, deep space probes detected a drifting Korth fragment entering interstellar exile. Its transmissions were weak, fragmented, but clear. Planet classification, sentient ecosystem, threat level, absolute. Human diplomats listened in silence. They didn't argue. Back on Earth, a child lay on the grass, watching birds circle overhead. A cat slept on his chest, purring softly. A dog sat nearby, alert, but calm. The child smiled. "Thank you," he whispered, not to the sky, not to the stars, but to the life beside him, because the greatest defense Earth ever had was never its weapons, it was its companions. And somewhere, deep in the quiet hum of the planet, the network rested, awake enough to listen, asleep enough to forgive.